Welcome back, guys. It's the weekend. It's the weekend. So, yeah, I'm just excited that it is Friday and that we get to have a weekend off. So, yeah, I'm real excited about that. My week was stressful, and a lot of you have heard through my two other videos this week that I've talked about feeling drained and feeling tired. So, today, the topic of discussion is stress management. I want to cover a technique that I've learned from cognitive psychology and behavioral psychology. So, with that being said, let's dive into it. The technique I want to share with you today is called the ABC technique of stress management. It was developed by Albert Ellis, who was a behavioral psychologist, and I think it's been now adapted by um, Martin Seligman. But so Albert Ellis created, he's really known for rational emotive therapy. And so if you're interested in learning more about this subject, you can just go Google him and figure out, you know, how far you want to take this and how far you want to study this. So with that being said, let's dive into it. With the obviously the ABC within the ABC technique of stress management, A is for acknowledgement, B is for balance, C is for control. So A for acknowledgement. So you want to kind of, whenever you're feeling stressed, you get to a point where you're just like, oh my God, I'm stuck. I can't get over this. I'm overwhelmed. This isn't making sense. Um, who came up with this? WTF? All the stuff that you can think about when you now hit a point where you're just like, I can't do this. I just need a minute, right? So you want to figure out, you want to acknowledge the things that transpired before you got to that point. You want to be aware of what's happening in your surroundings, the other people who saw everything. Most of the time, we don't have time to, do a full analysis of what happened before. But you can start with the most basic thing: is how did I get here? What happened? What did she do? What did I do? Okay, and that's really helpful. And that's that for the A. Okay, for B, B is for balance. Balance, you want to figure out, you want to balance out, right? You want to figure out what kind of stress it is. Is it really stressful, right? Like, is it a good stress? Is it something that you're trying to progress towards that is now, presented itself as being really tough, and now you have to step back and figure out how to approach that? Or is it bad stress? Stress that like is unnecessary, right? Stress that is, that's distress, really. Um, if that's distress or if it's eustress, this is what Albert Ellis talks about. He calls good stress eustress, and he calls bad stress distress. So you want to figure out if it's either one of those. Once you figured out what kind of stress it is, then you can figure out to what degree you can take on more of that, or if you want to get rid of the bad stress or not. All right. With that being said, that's it for the B. All right, guys. So now for C. C. So C is for control, and so when you come down to that stage of the ABC technique, you are now at the stage of solution. You're now at the stage of like, now that I've collected all the evidence, now that I've collected myself in a way, I have to now figure out, collected myself and now figured out what's happened. I have to figure out what I'm going to do to manage the stress, what I'm going to do to, not evade, but to get away from that stressful stimulus or stressful thing that's happening. And that's literally where you are now. So basically, you want to take control of this. So how are you going to deal with it? So in my own experience, I think solutions, because when you think solutions, you won't focus so much on the problems, on like what exists, or I mean what the problems are. If you spend a lot of time, that's kind of ruminative, or like ruminative. That's very, you're just ruminating on what the problem is. Oh, that's the problem, right? But I focus on the solution. So how am I going to Now get rid of this. How am I now going to cope with this? That's kind of where I'm at. I'll give you a little example about my week so far. So my week consisted of me dealing with some tenant relation stuff, dealing with Minneapolis Public Housing Authority. Um, After finding out that one of my tenants had breached one of my leases, breached my lease. Sorry, I I wanted to, was going to follow my own lease to the T. I was going to follow our contract as it was written, as the tenant signed it. But then there's another layer to that that was frustrating to find out that because of the local public housing authority here, I couldn't enforce my lease because the public housing authority superseded my lease, and boy was I frustrated. I was frustrated to the point where I had to call the public housing authority, and had a almost 20-minute conversation with them. Secondly, another thing that happened this week was in our new business that we're starting, I found out that whoever processed our paperwork and our credentials didn't do it right. So I literally was overwhelmed by the fact that it took us months and months to get to where we are currently, and now because they're so slow in processing, it would have taken us much longer. So I was thinking in months, that it would take months for us to solve that problem. So I was overwhelmed, and then I had to do some push-ups. I had to stretch. I had to do some other things to kind of calm myself down and acknowledge what I was going through. And then I had to figure out that it was good stress. It was good stress, and I had to figure out a way to solve that. So I took control of the situation by focusing on solutions. So the solution to that problem, the first one that I described with the Public Housing Authority, was I called, I did some research, I figured out a way to now solve that problem by just amending the lease instead of renewing the lease. And then with the situation with our new business, I had to figure out a way to I had to call the main number that we needed to call in the state of Minnesota to figure that out. And I got some solutions from there. I had to wait a day, and the situation was resolved the next day. So that's all I have today, you guys. If you have any questions about this, please feel free to comment. Please feel free to like. I would really love it if you subscribe. With that being said, I really appreciate you guys watching my videos. I now have 20 subscribers. For me, that's great because I started with 0, and it was just an idea not too long ago. So I'm very grateful, you guys. Thank you so much, and I hope this helps you free yourself from various stressors that exist out there in the world. And whenever you find yourself stuck, overwhelmed, you can use this to help free yourself, because if you are prepared, you can free yourself. So with that being said, go forth and live well, be happy. Happy Friday.